Hello and welcome back to the Activation Phase podcast. I'm Tim and I'm joined by JP. Hey there, JP.
Hi, Tim.
So, we're talking about Goths today. What can they do? What is their equipment?
Well, first of all, Goths are amazing. So you're going to get a totally unbiased view about the Goths and how amazing they are during this short episode. Let's maybe start off because there's there's a very important distinction between different types of Goths. So in the book, they split it between the Ostrogoths and the Visigoths. Historically speaking, the Ostrogoths are thought to have ended up somewhere in north of Italy and the Balkans. And the Visigoths are the Goths that ended up in the southwest of France and establishing a kingdom in the Iberian Peninsula. So that's the history lesson over. So what does that actually mean on the saga front? There's actually quite a difference in or style of play associated with this. So the Ostrogoths are essentially the mounted faction, the mounted version of this. That doesn't mean that the Visigoths can't be mounted. Really favors, well, basically as an Ostrogoth, you're going to take a lot of horses. So let's go through the options firstly. So for the Ostrogoths, your warlord can be mounted. He can choose to have cataphract armor. He doesn't have to, or he can. He's not allowed to be on foot whatsoever. So your Hearthguard have to be mounted, or they can use cataphract. They're not allowed to be on foot. The warriors can be mounted. You can actually have dismounted warriors with like no special equipment. However, you can never take more dismounted warriors than mounted warriors. So you're kind of forced to take a lot of people on horses. And finally, the levy are just your standard levy with range weapons, with bows and slings. So the Visigoths can have their warlord either mounted with cataphract, or on foot. Your Hearthguard can be mounted only if your warlord is mounted, and the same thing with the cataphract. They can have cataphract only if your warlord is mounted as well. And they can be on foot. Your warriors cannot be mounted, they have to be on foot, and then your levy are the same, so they have the bows and slings. So one maybe a little diversion, the Goth board can be used as Lombards in Age of Vikings. So that's one of the old friends, new enemies boards. So the only change in equipment options there is that your warlord has to be mounted. You can't take cataphract because that's not in Age of Vikings. Your Hearthguard have to be mounted with no special equipment. Your warriors have to be mounted, and this is where the interesting thing is. Your levy either can choose bows or slings, or they can have just melee weapons. I mean, that's kind of a very useful thing to have. Melee levy are pretty legit, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So that's a lengthy section on the equipment options there.
But I mean, these guys' equipment is way more like diverse than other factions of equipment, right? So I think it's they deserve this time to actually have a look at it the right way.
Yeah. It's not like Saxons or Saxons or Vikings or something like that, or Franks where you basically have no choice whatsoever. So it gives you a very flexible force, and the majority of the time we're going to be talking about the Ostrogoths simply because I prefer playing mounted faction. In this, for the Goths especially, I think their aggressive nature and also kind of how their battleboard really requires a lot of dice. Cutting down on having to spend dice on movement really helps you. So I prefer the Ostrogoths. However, any Visigoth player, I would love to hear how you run it. And I think that would be interesting to hear, because I think just the way the board is structured, where you have actually a lot of choice in terms of you can either choose attack dice or defense dice for a lot of these abilities. So just by switching between those two, and if you're on foot, you can close ranks more easily. You're less susceptible to shooting, etc. You can actually switch it to be a relatively defensive board as well. But anyway, let's maybe move on your kind of logistical side. So the dice that they use are just the standard Saxon dice, the green dice.
These dice are just a steal for this Age of Invasions book, man. So many factions use these Saxon dice, like Franks, Goths, and Saxons. They just got to get those dice.
We're not going to go through the whole board. I think we would probably have to switch our format to an hour-long format to discuss the entire board, especially because the Goth board or 9 out of 10 abilities are really good. And the one that's not in that list is still pretty fine. It's
just average.
Yeah, it's just baseline
for this board.
Yeah. So we're not going to go through everything, but we're just going to, or I picked out a few that I think give you the flavor of the board. And if you haven't looked at it yet, maybe you can have a look at the rest of the abilities and kind of bask in its glory. So the first one that I think is basically an auto take every single turn is called immunity. So this is a shooting, reaction, or a melee, and you can use every single. You can use the 3 dice facings. So it's amazing because whatever you have, you can put it down. You do get an extra little bonus with putting down a rare, but even just putting down a common or uncommon is perfectly acceptable. So the ability allows you to inflict a fatigue on your unit to cancel up to 2 casualties suffered by your unit during this melee or shooting attack. And you bump this up to canceling 3 casualties if you use the rare. And on top of that, you can also immediately trigger another saga ability. So, like, yes, the downside is you have to inflict a fatigue on yourself, but for the Goth board, that's actually also a bonus. So let me explain. So if you decide to charge in, you automatically can play the first ability. So if you charge in fresh with no fatigue, you trigger this, you get a fatigue, and then it kind of opens up this little ability tree to you within the board. I know we said we were only going to talk about 4 or 5, but I will take a liberty here and kind of expand it a little bit. So, for example,
that's all right.
There's another one which we're not officially talking about, but it's called Blood Price. There you gain 2 dice for each fatigue on your unit, and it can be attack or defense dice or a mix of the 2. So already there, you're better off if you have a fatigue. However, you're better off actually playing that a little bit later when you get some more fatigues. For example, you can use another ability called Attack. That's another melee ability where you inflict a fatigue, and you inflict a fatigue on your own unit, and you get 2 automatic hits on the enemy. So there you can kind of like see what you're building up fatigue on your unit. Even if you charge in fresh, just playing those 2 abilities straight off the bat, you've already put 2 fatigue on your unit. But you do get some pretty powerful abilities
for
back.
sure. Yeah, I think one big thing to help this is the resolve ability, which either takes a uncommon or a rare die, and you can activate a unit or 2 units if you use a rare, and until the end of the activation, including the melee that follows when you charge, the enemy cannot use your fatigues. So if you use this and then play all these abilities that give you fatigue, you shouldn't be scared to put you at a 3 fatigue, because the enemy can't use your fatigues anyway, and you can't exhaust yourself in the melee. So even if you end up with three fatigues in the saga ability step, then you're still not exhausted, because that only counts if you're at 3 fatigues at the beginning of the melee. So all these abilities, you can just play them after you played Resolve, because the enemy is not allowed to take your fatigues, and I think that's really, really good.
The Resolve is, I think it's the ability that ties the whole board together, right? It's the,
for sure, yeah.
In my mind, that's where the first rare goes whenever I play them. Because that allows you to charge in 2 units, and 2 units is really, or 2 charges is really kind of the maximum that you can do given the dice cap, essentially.
Yeah.
One really nice thing with Resolve is if you charge a mounted unit into uneven terrain or the woods or something like that to get some archers. As you charge in, unless you already, that normally means you have to do 2 moves anyway, because you end up kind of being slowed down. So you end up with 2 fatigues, 1 from the extra move or from the extra charge, and 1 from ending movement in uneven terrain if you're cavalry. But that really doesn't matter.
You don't care.
You just
don't care.
0 F's given. So it really surprises people as well. I mean, it surprises them once, and they're like, "Okay, I know what you're up to." But they do tend to, or people do tend to, deploy their archers kind of in a forest that's moved up a little bit. It's not impossible to do in the first turn, and that kind of throws people off because they're not expecting it. But now I've told everyone, so.
Well, screw you, JP, man.
Yeah, I've ruined it for all the Goth guys. Let's talk about Eye of the Hurricane.
Yeah.
So that's a uncommon dice. It's an orders and orders reaction ability. So you remove up to 4 fatigues from enemy units of your choice. Then you remove the same number of fatigues from your own units. Yeah, this is like a lifesaver, right? Charge 2 units in with resolve. You kind of max out on fatigue. You probably end up with 3 fatigues, either through giving yourself fatigue through your abilities,
Yeah.
and or you kind of get the last fatigue because you do it at the end of melee. So kind of guaranteed, you're gonna have 2 exhausted units kind of stuck in your opponent's battle line, right? So with this, you do need to make sure that either you kill a unit and that there's units around them that get fatigue, or if the unit you charged hasn't died, you can use their fatigue as well to kind of make sure that there's actual fatigue on your enemy to be able to use this.
So good.
And it's also interesting because you can do it either in the orders or the orders reaction phase. So it gives you a lot of flexibility there as well. You can either wait, or you can either do it directly at the beginning of the orders phase of your opponent, or once they've placed their dice to see what they're up to.
I think that's so good. If you see them place extra dice to rest their units, I think it's so good to play this ability and like take their fatigue away for them. So then they're stuck with extra dice. They waste it on the like basic activation for warriors or something. I think that's really nasty actually, because then they're like stuck with extra activations they can't actually use right now. And that's always a good situation for you, I think.
Yeah, it really depends what kind of orders abilities they have as well. Because if they have a orders ability which allows them to rest or remove fatigue themselves, you want to do it as soon as possible, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are very few boards that actually do that. But the key here is even if you can only remove 2 fatigue from your opponent, and it means that you can take 2 fatigue away from your own units, I would still do it, simply because, for example, immunity, you need to be able to inflict 1 fatigue on your on your unit, so you can't be exhausted. Kind of as a minimum, you need to be able to either play immunity or attack. That's also a melee ability, but that's you inflict the fatigue upon yourself, and you add 2 automatic hits to the hits you inflict.
Which is so good.
Even if you have 1 warrior left, you could just put this on, and it's a really big deterrent, right? 2 automatic hits. So whenever you don't actually have to roll dice, that's great, right? Because you can't get screwed over by a bad dice roll.
It's really good, and it's 1 uncommon for 2 automatic hits. Like, you don't get automatic hits that often on battleboards these days, I think. So I think it's really good. Yeah.
Because why would you put something on a combat bonus if you could put on attack?
For sure. Yeah.
It makes no sense.
You don't need the combat bonus with this board. I don't think ever.
Because I don't think I've ever put something on the.
Yeah. Why would you? Because every ability basically gives you dice, defense or attack dice, and in a better way than the combat bonus could. And,
I mean, even I know we're not supposed to talk about another one, but even feud, you can put down a common or uncommon, and there you designate an enemy unit, and you get extra dice for attacking it. So, like literally, combat bonus, they could have just
left it off.
Left it off. No point.
For sure. Right. So I think we talked about every ability, but 2. So let's talk about those 2 now. So talk about First Blood.
Yeah. So First Blood, like, there's nothing wrong with this ability. It's a common and an uncommon. It's a melee ability. So if your unit currently has no fatigue, you can gain 3 attack dice. Like, that's fine. There's so many better things to use. And the other one is Kunias. I don't know how you say it. It's
me neither.
It's the only one that requires 2 dice, and that's the main problem. It's actually a totally legit, totally fine ability. However, I just feel like that you need like every single dice.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
you just need to move or to put on a ability. So spending 2 dice on this just makes it so just too costly. So it's a melee, and it's the attacker only. So here you can reroll half your failed attack and defense dice. So that's like rerolling defense dice, always great. So if your unit has at least 2 fatigues, you reroll all your failed attack. Yeah, rerolling dice is always good, but the main downside is just you need to use the 2 saga dice, and I rarely, if ever, kind of feel like I have that space to use 2 saga dice for this.
So I think going with, if you have veterans, Hearthguard, if you have Hearthguard and you charge them into enemy Hearthguard, especially if it's like a 6 or like a 6 and an 8 block of Hearthguard or 8 and 8, I think you totally need to play this ability, because then all the it might actually be worth it, because you have all these attack dice and all these defense dice that you will inevitably end up with. So I think that might be one of the only cases where this ability, I think, is better than the others. But that's all situational, and that's just not good enough for the Goth board.
Yeah, I think so too. But when I've done that, I've normally done attack for the 2 automatic hits, and then immunity for canceling. Because you don't even cancel cancel casualties, so you don't even have to. You roll your dice, and then you see, and then whatever got through, you cancel 2 or 3 of those. And even blood price is pretty decent once you play that kind of at the end of your string of attack, immunity, and then something else maybe, and then blood price, because you gain 2 or 3 attack or defense dice per fatigue, so you can easily gain 4 to 6 defense dice.
Yeah.
So you become really, really difficult to shift.
So this Goth board has a like 3-star rating, or like the hardest rating. Do you think that's fair?
I'm not sure if it's a 3-star rating. The trick does come in understanding fatigue, when you get fatigue, and kind of when you count as being exhausted or not really. So it's not the easiest board, but it's very I think it's very powerful, because they might have given it 3-star because essentially with the Goths you ignore a very important mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
You essentially turn the fatigue upside down.
You do.
You do suffer from it, especially once you don't have anything on your board anymore, then you're kind of screwed. That's where you have to be. That's kind of one way of defeating the Goths. Just don't try to do anything to them in their turn. Just kind of hope you survive. And then once the board is empty, like you'll have 2 or 3 Goth units close to your battle line who are exhausted. So have fun there. Because in the end, if they don't have any dice, or even if they're exhausted, they can't play immunity anymore, or they can't play
attack or something.
So if you just manage to exhaust them and keep your own units well rested, so they can't take advantage of Eye of the Hurricane, then that makes it much more difficult. And then they also have to divert dice into actually resting them.
Right. So really, really good board. So one quick question, JP. I want to build Goths now. What do I buy?
Maybe I'll just say kind of what I play with at the moment. I'm not saying that this is the best the best format, but it's like with Saga. What I like a lot is that it's really dependent on the person, and there's no one set way of playing a warband. People get good results kind of playing to their strengths. So what I like is 2 points of Hearthguard mounted with a banner. There's no problem getting attack dice with this board. Yeah. So it doesn't matter that you lose 2 with a banner, but it does matter that you can kind of limit your own fatigue a little bit, and you can shed it more easily. Then I like at least 3 points of mounted warriors. I would probably play with 4 if I had the painted models. So I think it's like 2 points of Hearthguard, 4 points of warriors, or 3 points of warriors. And then just taking 1 point of levy with bows, because it's actually, you rarely regret taking levy with shooting weapons, to be honest, because you can put them somewhere, make it difficult on your enemy's cavalry somewhere. So it's not like it's ever a waste, right?
Yeah, they're cheap and they survive a lot. So I think just putting them somewhere in the battle, like on the board, and forgetting about them works really good.
Yep, absolutely. So I think that's one way of playing. I'm really interested in hearing what people play with Visigoths. There, I would probably take a lot more warriors, actually. Warriors are just really difficult to shift, especially if you combine it with just closing ranks in your turn, playing immunity, so many defensive dice, and cancel casualties. And then also with Grazia, you can get +1 to your defense dice as well. So you're almost impossible to kill if you want to. So I think that's
crazy, which is crazy. This is such an offensive faction, and there's still this ability to be like a tank. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think that makes it really satisfying as well, because at the beginning of the game you can be very, very attack focused, and then if you're getting hit back and you still have a few dice, you can convert. You essentially are given the choice in a lot of these abilities to either take attack or defense dice. So even if you're mounted and you can't close ranks, you can still get some decent amount of defensive dice here.
Really good.
So,
right.
yeah.
So this is what you would build, and who do I buy it from?
Yeah, so
Which mates are there?
kind of old school, so I do like metal models. So
you're weird, JP. You're weird.
I know. So I have a warband that's entirely footsore. They do really nice Ostrogoths and also Visigoths. Yeah, it's like a few kilos of metal with all the horses, but it looks nice. Your other options are Gripping Beast has plastic Goth nobles. They also have the Cataphracts versions. And they just have the normal warriors as well, all in plastic. So that's a pretty good option as well. And then your standard Dark Age warriors would be perfectly fine for your foot units. So I think you can probably build it relatively cheaply there as well.
I think so too, yeah.
So right now you have Footsore, Gripping Beast, and then I think War Games Atlantic are coming out with plastic Goths on foot. There they have the special helmets. Like it looks really nice.
It's gonna come out this March. They're in the production queue right now, so they're probably gonna open the pre-order in March.
There's been some pictures of Victrix releasing kind of it's essentially a very modular box where you can build Goths, Saxons, Britons, various unarmored warriors during this time period. So that's supposed to come out as well. But that doesn't really help you if you want to build the mounted warriors or mounted faction. But so as far as I know, I'm sure there's some other smaller manufacturers as well. Gripping Beast also has the metal line, but I think that's probably about it. I'm sure we're missing out on some people's favorite ones.
Probably, yeah.
Let us know.
That's all right though. All right, so that was the Goths. What are we going to talk about next? Right, so we have two things in the pipeline, I think, which we really want to talk about. One being Picts, because you're kind of into Picts. You played them, and I think they're really interesting, and we should talk about them soon. So that, and one other thing we really like is we want to call it Paint One, Play Many. So kind of the phenomenon where you can paint one warband and paint them generically and play them as many or like as 2 or 3. That might be, we think that's worth it to go into and talk about it and to see like which warband you can play in different books and then with different factions, and we really want to talk about that. So these are the things that are coming up.
Yep, I think we'll raise the blood pressure. Some people are really into their historical accuracy,
sure,
but I think it's also important to make the game as kind of accessible as possible for people. And kind of not having to have a gigantic time investment every time you want to play a different battle board is really useful and also helps people keep interested with Saga. Yeah, looking forward to talking to you about those. Thank you very much for talking with me tonight.
It was great.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Activation Phase podcast, and we hope to catch up with you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.